I'm here with my Uncle Bill Charlton. I'm Heather Moffat, and we are interviewing him about his memories of Penn Lake, and Eva Marie Moffat is also here helping us with the interview.
Hello everybody. We're organized here and ready to roll on this story. I've been coming to this property since I was a kid in about 1935. And I'd just like to tell you a little bit about what my parents did over those years and perhaps even some of the things that I did that you may or may not be interested in. Anyway, it all started, my grandfather had property over on Springside, and my father and mother used to go up there for holidays. And in 1934, they decided to paddle across the lake. So they climbed in the canoe and paddled over to this property that we're on. And said they could hardly get on shore. It was so heavy with vegetation. But anyway, the property was owned by George Hill, not George Hill, Gordon Hill. It was owned by Gordon Hill, and Gordon and George, between them, owned a lot of the freehold property that had been originally granted to Norton Hill, the preacher. So anyway, they decided to go over and talk to Gordon, and paddled across to the landing, walked up to Gordon's house, which was the house that my Uncle Lang bought at one time. And we all had a lot of pleasure there, and I think Heather was married there, as I recall.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Full next address.
So anyway, without digressing, they made a deal with Gordon Hill, and remember this is 1930, Depression. And so Gordon brought out a map and a ruler, drew a line, and said, "I'll sell you that for $1,000. That was in 1930. So they bought the property, and I guess don't hold me to the years because I'm not good at remembering what happened when, but the next year they arranged with the Annises, Hector and Bill, to come and build the log cottage. And the original cottage was 30 by 30 foot square. And the whole thing was built of logs, and there were no chainsaws then, so every log was cut with a cross-cut saw, some guy on each end pulling and pushing. And the way they got them up, once they got above ground level, they didn't have any equipment to lift them up, so they would lean a couple of logs against the logs that were in place and hook a horse onto the log that they wanted to move up and skid it up and drop it on the next one, and then go around the corner and do it again until they had the log wall. So I don't have any idea how many hours a day they worked or how long it took, but the end result was a 30 by 30 square foot cottage with 3 bedrooms in the kitchen. And not too long. Also, I should mention that the next thing they built was an ice house, because there was not much by the way of refrigeration. So an ice house was built not far off the kitchen door, and it was I can't give you the footage off the top of my head, but it was a fair-sized building, and it contained a small, like we would think of as a refrigerator. You opened a big heavy wooden door and there were shelves and things in there. And it might have been 4 feet by 4 feet. The rest of the building was there to hold ice. And so every winter, the Annises, Hector and Bill, would come over here, cut up blocks of ice from the lake and take them up and fill up the ice house. So there was a lot of ice for the amount of small refrigeration space that was there. And the ice usually would last. The end of August, it would probably be gone. But that was sort of the situation there. So after that, I guess I don't know exactly when this guest cabin was built, but it can't have been too long after that. And then I think they also built a boathouse for our boats that we'll talk a bit about, but built a 2-slip boathouse that was a great facility for a number of years until one spring the ice decided to take it down, so we no longer have a boathouse. Anyway, we're not suffering. I guess jumping ahead, then, I should say that not too long after that, whether it was because we were growing up or what, my sister and I, but they decided to add on 2 bedrooms and to take one of the bedrooms and make it into a bathroom. So that was done. It gave them a lot more space, a lot more flexibility. And I guess as far as buildings, I guess it would be in the 60s that at that time it was decided that my wife and I and our kids were outgrowing the place, and so we ended up unfortunately with a cabin of our own, and it was a 3-bedroom cabin, frame building, and the original structure was a boathouse from our neighbors, the Kennards, and the footings of the cribbing for the boathouse all was disintegrating, so one winter, again with the horses, they skidded it around the corner and made it into our cottage, which we've enjoyed for many, many years, and our son and his family are enjoying it now. I don't know if you want to go anywhere now.
What about this cabin? Because this is your cottage now. This was originally a guest cabin.
Yeah, well, okay, I guess after my parents died, we severed the original property into 3 parcels and decided the amount of maintenance and the weekend guests that we were having, we decided that we were going to reduce our holdings. So we were going to Florida for the winter. So we decided to sell the one property, and that was in 1995. And that was bought by John and David Hay, who used to be on the lake as kids, and had missed it a great deal and were anxious to come back. At that time also, because of the selling of the cottage, we decided to fix up the guest cabin. So that was another log building that we added on, took off the porch, added on some kitchen and dining facilities, and that now is where Diane and I are having most of our fun.
All right. Oh, and what about the name of the original cottage?
What about it?
Well, Sunset Point, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
So
it's been, the whole property has been called Sunset Point.
named after the view, I suppose.
From day one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have a real western exposure, so get some lovely sunsets in the summer months for sure.
There was a gorgeous one last night.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so it's fun to sit down on the patio and perhaps enjoy a drink.
Little beverage with
Maybe. Who would know?
I'm curious what seasons you've come up for.
Well, originally, God, don't ask me the timing, but probably in the 40s, the only time we would come would be for 2 months. And I would come up with my sister and my mother, I can remember, and old Highway 11 that went through every town along the way, Barrie, and we would make it as far as Aurelia, and always would stop and have a break and have a picnic on the, what was Samuel D. Champlain Park. I don't know what they call it now, but it's not that, because I told our friends we'd meet them there, and we never did get together. We couldn't find them.
So much for that friendship.
So we would carry on, and so I would come up here after school was out at the end of June, and I would be here for 2 months until Labor Day, and we'd pack up and go back to the city. So originally, that was it. We didn't come up weekends, we didn't come up in the winter.
Did your mom bring help up with her? Because the daily chores back in those days must have been pretty onerous.
Yeah, we were very fortunate that my parents, my father had his office in the house, and so we had help when we were in Weston, and in the summer months, they would come to the cottage, so it was quite nice for all of us. We had
Yeah, well, they got a
a little
vacation
help,
too.
Finnish chap named Alvari Rainey, and he was an amazing talent. He would, a lot of the furniture, don't see it now, but he made a lot of stools and all kinds of things, sailboats, all things for the kids.
Is that right?
And he did everything outside, all the outside maintenance. And then about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, he'd disappear, go in, change, come in with a white jacket into the kitchen and do the dinner. And his wife, she didn't do a great deal. She was more in the dish detail, I think. Anyway, but yeah, we were for a number of years. We were very fortunate. I can't tell you when that stopped, but it was a while ago. So anyway,
So why am I
Would your
stopping?
dad come up?
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
just curious. Would your dad come up on weekends or?
well, he took the
Holidays?
month, every year he took the month of August up.
Okay.
So he would come up for the month of August,
Oh, that's good.
and he would probably come a couple of weekends in July, maybe. So, yeah. But no, in the shoulder seasons in the winter for a lot, we didn't come near here. And then I'm not sure when that started, but certainly we started to come up on the 24th of May weekend and Thanksgiving, and we got road in, and you could drive in. And,
That's another interesting point because you could not drive into this
well, it was
cottage.
water access, and I'm going to talk
So,
about
yeah.
that with the boat.
Okay.
Oh, let's do that then.